So for this video, I've gathered a bunch of random FNAF games I found on Roblox and put them for a tier list. These games range from unfinished tech demos to remakes to original fan games made on Roblox. I've looked at not to include any of the numerous roleplay games or experiences that are just loosely related to FNAF. So that means games like the Pizzeria Roleplay Remastered, FNAF Murder Mystery, FNAF Tower Defense, etc. They're not going to be taken into account, even if they do kind of fit the criteria. I should mention, as a disclaimer, that this is just for my own fun, and that my opinion isn't objective. I wanted to rank this game simply by how much fun I had playing them. One game being placed over the other should not imply that one's just better. You'll see some hot garbage in S, I promise you. More fun to argue tier lists that way, but maybe that's just me. To reiterate, this is just for my own enjoyment, and maybe, hopefully, other Roblox players find other cool FNAF games to play from this video. Another disclaimer that most, if not all, these games prompt an epilepsy warning, so just as a heads up. So, let's get into it. First game is Animatronics Help Wanted by Crazy Gamer. Animatronics Help Wanted is a recreation of Steel Wool's FNAF Help Wanted VR. It is currently still in development, which is common and you'll notice that as we go down the list. First impression is that it looks very good for being on Roblox, being very accurate to the original game. This is possible because some games like this tend to grab the assets straight from their source material, like a port basically. I've always wondered if games like this are even legal regarding copyright and stuff. And animatronics is definitely monetized. There's a handful of Game Pass you can buy. It's not going to factor my ranking or anything, I just felt like I should note that. It seems to have a good portion of the minigames here they're able to select, as the developers continue to add content gradually. They're even including the silly little extras like the prize counter and gallery, and even a showtime sequence.
Hello, everybody! You ready to have a good time?
The standard controls are similar to the flat mode version of Help Wanted and makes for a more casual way to enjoy the game. A multiplayer mode is even teased, which is probably what I'd be most excited for. Any game gets better when you play with friends. For Animatronics Help Wanted, I'll think I'd give it a solid A. If someone was looking for Help Wanted on Roblox, this definitely does the job. I'm very curious how it would run on lower end devices though. Up next we have Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese Remastered, made by Manny here. I had no idea what to expect from this one. I've never heard of this game before, but apparently it's a remaster. The game starts by teleporting the entire lobby into the office to defend from the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. 10 plus people in one office. This will make the game near impossible to win, so I decided to leave and roam around the place. The animatronics only path towards the office, so you can just chill out here and none of them will attack you. There's also a random arcade zombie apocalypse thing in the corner. I admittedly spent way too much time on it. I guess I just want to see how far this game went. But it's really funny that I could just chill out here while everyone else tries to beat the night. There is a separate multiplayer mode where players can opt to become the animatronics or the night guard, but I couldn't play it. There's not nearly enough people in these servers to get a game going. I think the game's core functionality gets scuffed just by the premise of having this many people in the office, controlling the doors and affecting the game. There are private servers if you really want to go play this game solo, but it costs Robux and I wasn't about to do that. I'm going to put it at D tier for now. The map's pretty limited for exploration, and progressing through the nights is out of your hands at this point. Next, we got Five Nights at Freddy's 1. I'll keep games like this straightforward, as we're probably going to be seeing a lot of FNAF 1 doing this list, or just classic games in general. Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is a recreation of the first FNAF game made by user Camillus. The game itself looks pretty good. It definitely does what it set out to do. Not much to say for it being an accurate recreation of that game. During my playthrough, I assumed I got pretty lucky, as for the first two nights, I wasn't attacked by the animatronics at all. Night 3 felt like a huge difficulty spike because of that, but that's just a very minor detail that could very well have just been RNG. I think this game sits comfortably at B tier. They've done a really good job at making their own fan creation, and it looks great. Next up is Five Nights at Freddy's Doom, made by user Kaio. From the title alone, I thought it'd be like a reskin version of Doom, but with FNAF characters. Despite that, it seems like a normal FNAF fan game, but with some of your standard fixes. It's multiplayer, check. Free roam, check. Bit of random expedition thrown in, check. I entered someone's lobby randomly to start at night 2, and I had no idea what I was doing. The animatronics begin to move, and I think they just attack anyone they see. I'm not sure. All the people outside the office just start dying, so it makes sense to stay in the office. But eventually, the power goes out, which makes them hunt you down. I actually get to see the prologue for the game. Not that it makes me any less confused, but it's cool to see the game has voice acting. Same deal as before. The animatronics just go into the office or chase somebody, though the hours seem way longer than any other FNAF game. Look at the seconds. Those cannot be normal seconds. The gameplay look took some getting used to, having to just let them in my office at some points because of how their AI functions. You see they never really leave the doors, slowly draining your power. Eventually, we do win, no thanks to the frauds in my lobby. This game does have versions all the way to FNAF 4, so I peeked at that one too, since no one else was on it. Don't let this gameplay fool you. I was actually very brave in confronting this night all by myself. What you're being shown here is not indicative at all of how gracious I was playing it out. FNAF Doom is going to go in C tier. I can see myself getting more mileage out of it with friends, but I don't think I can bear nights that long. Five Nights at Freddy's Remake by Carter. Again, pretty straightforward. It's a remake of FNAF 1, though this one has a few quirks. The cam flipping can be disorienting, as you can see, where I move my mouse back up after opening the cameras, and then closes the cameras. So you'd have to swerve your mouse to the side to avoid hitting the now invisible cam bar. Right clicking seems to center your mouse, which could be a feature. I just thought it was interesting. Another thing, and this is usually just Roblox games in general, nothing against this game, but playing on a low graphics quality is almost unplayable since you can't really see much as it messes with the lighting. Low NPCs tend to have a really hard time playing horror games, especially the ones where you rely on a flashlight of some kind. Other than that, it's standard FNAF. I'm gonna stick it right beside the last one in C tier, as the little quirks I found while playing left a bit to be desired. Next game we have is Five Nights at Your Friends by Bulu here. Five Nights at Your Friends is yet another FNAF 1 remake where you swap the animatronics for your friends. It's a silly little gimmick that honestly fits perfectly for Roblox. I used my friend's avatar here. Let's see what he thinks of this screen. What do you think of this?
Kill yourself!
There's no phone guy, and you get to select the nights you want to play freely, meaning you don't have to complete the nights chronologically. It's such a breath of fresh air being able to skip ahead from the slow first nights. The funny visuals you get from having your friends' avatars be in the game definitely kept me entertained as well. Oh my god, never mind. Assuming this game is still in development, then it's possible to have a FNAF 2 version, which could be really cool to see a lot of your friends on. I think it's comfortable in B tier, but it could easily move up if they kept adding more. Up next is probably the last FNAF 1 game for a while, don't hate me. But before I talk about it, take a look at this clip. Oh my god! Anyway, FNAF 1 The Security Breach by Optic is just as it sounds, a remake of FNAF 1 but with the Security Breach cast. Though it does feature slightly different aggression mechanics than what you might be used to. At least it switches things up and allows you to adapt to something new. I got to be Night Guard. Yeah, I didn't end well. Since the animatronics are piloted by players, they get to move as quick as they like. No chance I'm going to be dead. Gonna slide it right in with the other B tiers. Definitely a good, simple game, and in retrospect, I'm glad it's not entirely a FNAF 1 port. Up next is FNAF Animatronic Repair by Nate. Animatronic Repair is a game specifically dedicated to the repair minigames you find in Help Wanted. Currently only having Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy. Right off the bat, it's noticeably a lot less strict than the official game it's based on. I started with Bonnie, but if you're anything like me, you might find that it's actually really hard to mess up these minigames. I went to Freddy, but you could just speed run through the entire thing by spam clicking. I couldn't fail if I tried. This is largely in part to the fact that it's not VR, and you don't have free moving hands that would normally allow for lots of human error. You either click in the correct spot, or you don't. Straightforward recreations, no gimmicks, I'll put it at C tier. For this next game, we have FNAF AU Special Delivery by Heisenberg. This is a game based on FNAF AR, surprisingly enough. I didn't think there'd be one for Roblox. You encounter various animatronics and you have to fend them off using your flashlight and shock, just like how you would in the original game. You can build your own endo to attack people as well and spend your points for cosmetics. I'll admit it took me an embarrassing amount of time to even know what I was supposed to do, even after playing the tutorial. I died! Put simply, you need to wait for the animatronic to appear and attack you, and then you just shock it. There's a small section of the game where you can roam around different areas to collect remnant to also help with building randos. This game definitely looks cool, but maybe it's just not for me. It's a bit hard to rank games like this because it's not like there's anything wrong with it, but just for the sake of how much fun I had playing it, I'm going to toss it into C tier. Maybe I don't understand the game. So, you've probably heard of FNAF Co-op if you play any FNAF games on Roblox. It's developed by Zoctar, and it's another multiplayer experience of the classic games from FNAFs 1 through 5 with extra original minigames included as well. In addition to standard gameplay, there's perks, roles, and upgrades you can buy with the money you get for completing the nights, adding a ton of replayability. As far as co-op FNAF games go, this game does really well. As the name implies, the game was focused around the multiplayer experience. It's also just cool, in general, to see how these nights play out with multiple people, like having two kids at each door in FNAF 4, or someone being on the lookout for Funtime Freddy while the other person does the maintenance. The game is still getting content updates, luckily, so it's always nice to pop back into it. Side note, while playing, I encountered a really funny bug that made all the animatronics T-pose for some reason. That's definitely never happened before. I'm gonna give this game the first S tier. I think it's everything I'd want in a multiplayer FNAF game on Roblox. I think even non-Roblox players could enjoy this. Maybe. I feel like every time I say that, it sounds stupid. Looks like I spoke too soon. Turns out while editing this video, the game got an update, revamping some of the UI with major changes to FNAF 1 and 3 specifically, with the rest still in development. I wouldn't want to stay in this game for too long, so go try it out yourself. The developers seem very receptive to feedback, hence the updates. Next, I'll try to keep this one quick. FNAF Data Breach is a discontinued security breach remake made by Jewel Games and Daybreak Studios. I included in this list because there's not a lot of SB games anyway, but also because I was really excited during its initial development, being one of the only security breach games to be worked on in Roblox after the original game's release. From what I've heard, development was pretty rough, and the owner decided to stop working on the game, focusing on other projects. It's probably for the better. The multiplayer doesn't function beyond the lobby, and single player serves as a tech demo, with the story leading up to grabbing the photo pass for Freddy. I guess I'd have to leave it on D tier since there isn't much to do, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't gushing about it like 2 years ago. Moving on, we have FNAF Five Nights at Freddy's Story, made by Ratty. Let me just tell you guys about this game. It is extremely entertaining to me. I remember seeing this game recommended on my Roblox homepage with like an insane like ratio after the FNAF movie release. And I was thinking to myself that there was no way they were able to recreate the movie in such little development time. So I go to play the game, and I was just blown away. The entire FNAF movie into a Roblox game in the same month that it was released. It's incredible. And it doesn't even mention the amazing gameplay. They're very original assets that look nothing like Break-In, mind you, and the creative liberties they took with the Freddy Fazbear final boss fight, it makes for a perfect multiplayer FNAF experience. In all seriousness, this game was just funny to play. It's gonna be really weird to rank. If it was a normal game tier list, we would put it in D. If the game was a parody and meant to be satirical, it would be an automatic S tier, no question. Maybe I should just average them and just do from how much fun I had, putting it at B tier. Uh, how about there? Perfect. With that out the way, we now have FNAF Five Nights Simulator. This game I had forgotten all about. I was surprised to learn it was only made in 2019. From the way it looked, I thought it would be much older than that. It's not even to like insult the game, by the way. It's like the way the game is formatted reminded me of older Roblox games. It seems like a simple arcade type FNAF game where the lobby drops into the pizzeria and the animatronics are randomly chosen to wander and kill you. The game sounds fine as a concept. The behavior of the animatronics are very odd. Most of them can't even reach you on their own spawn stage. The map you're seeing is also the only map available. Surviving lots of rounds can unlock you new items to aid you or just be cosmetics, which is definitely cool. Uh, there just wasn't much for me to get out of this game, but it's a neat little fan game that I can imagine a kid enjoying. I'll put it at C tier. Next game is FNAF Help Requested 2 by Agalos. Help Requested 2 is a Roblox recreation of Help 1 and 2 for VR. This game is noticeably very early access. I didn't quite grasp by how much early access, but I wanted to include it anyways. It's one of the only games I've seen recreating Help 1 and 2. The game begins with a whole intro sequence until you're sat at the lobby. There's a computer screen that acts as a navigation menu to select your minigame. I found Bonkabon, which for some reason I was just extremely terrible at. The game does look nice since it's just ported assets. I finally beat all three stages, and then find that I was sent back to the menu again. I realized that this is the only completed minigame available to play. For the current state of the game, maybe we'll do a C tier. A lot of C tiers I know, but that'll change soon. It's a fun minigame on its own. It looks good. There's no bugs as far as I can tell. Alright, now, FNAF Mashup Multiplayer by Protoscribe. Mashup Multiplayer is a chaotic multiplayer game based on Ultimate Custom Night, where players are given a wide range of animatronics from the previous titles to hunt the night guard. Just like Ultimate Custom Night, or UCN I'm gonna call it for now, each character functions uniquely to how they would in their respective games. This proves to be a hard challenge for the night guard to not only remember what each character does, but to play differently for each night, not knowing who might be active to kill them. I myself couldn't win a night, maybe if Carter hopped off for like 2 seconds, but it's definitely possible. Not sure how much effort the devs put into balancing, but I hope the answer is zero because I think it's a lot more fun that way. I would love to play this game with a large group of friends as well, each of us taking turns as night guard. I also appreciate the models and map, knowing they're not just ported from somewhere. Like, these animatronics are Robloxified. It's awesome. I'll give this game a spy in A tier. I think there's a good amount of fun to be had here, depending on how much you like UCN anyway. Lots of replayability, especially if the game keeps getting more additions. The concept is such a neat idea to spawn from UCN. There's another game like this later down the list too. The next game we have FNAF Multiplayer by Ilya Gamer. FNAF Multiplayer is another FNAF co-op experience with FNAF 1 and 2. There's no special gimmicks or anything, just built around trying to survive the classic nights with your friends. This guy Aiden joined me, but I guess he wasn't feeling it. He left the night forward, but whatever. Unlike other remakes, you're equipped with an unlimited flashlight, surprisingly enough. You can peek at the doors without having to leave the room or wasting power if you really want to be conservative, which is cool. I imagine this would make the harder nights play differently. As a side note, in FNAF 2, to flip off the cams requires an extra click. It's such a minor detail. Maybe it should be put as a setting. FNAF multiplayer seems like a simple way to enjoy the first FNAF games with your friends, so I'll have it at B tier. Moving on, we have FNAF Pizza Party made by Do Small. FNAF Pizza Party is a multiplayer free roam fetch quest type of fan game with lobbies up to 10 players. There's 2 chapters to choose from with few bits of cutscenes and voice acting thrown in, which I can mostly appreciate, but you can't skip them aside from the first one. You could go around completing tasks, trying not to die, the usual. As the nights progress, more animatronics are added, and it becomes harder to survive, the usual. When someone dies, you actually have the chance to revive them, funnily enough. I definitely never seen that before in a FNAF game, but it makes sense here as you only have 1 life. There are perks here as well that you're able to grind for, accompanied by roles that you can unlock by leveling up as well. I know I probably mentioned replayability a lot. It's just something about a game that if get you to come back to replay it says something about its quality one way or the other. Like, I'm glad that the game is fun enough to beat repeatedly and for me to max these out. And killing with like 10 people with the possibility of them having voice chat makes it hard for it to go stale. However, it does seem like it's not receiving updates anymore. It was really fun, but I get if not everyone can get behind it. I'll put it in A tier out of my own personal enjoyment. Now, for this colorful game, we have FNAF Return to Animatronica by Tebek. This is the first and likely only game based on FNAF World on this list. I almost didn't include it because I have no idea what I'm doing. It's like an RPG that feels like a roleplay game, which, yes, that's what an RPG stands for, but you know what I mean. You pick a character and you drop instantly into the game. I assume my goal is just to collect characters and complete quests. Aside from being multiplayer, this game also has PvP. So at any point of me walking, I gotta like throw hands with floating purple Freddy. The combat does feel really weird though. There's a basic melee attack that everyone gets, but maybe it runs on some invisible stamina meter because it stops working every few seconds. There's a huge delay for me from choosing one of my moves to it actually occurring in the game. Walking was pretty slow, but you have to buy a game pass to access teleporting, oddly enough. If I wanted to leave an area, I'd just reset. There's no way I'm going to be walking back. One thing that's pretty cool though are the characters. I had just a ton of them. A lot of animatronic OCs rather than just like regular ones, which I think adds some charm and uniqueness to this game. I see Foxy in a straitjacket, and I'm wondering what even led to that. It's a hard game for me to get into, but it definitely looks interesting. I'm just gonna stick it in C tier with a written apology that says sorry for being stupid. Up next is FNAF Security Breach Multiplayer, which is a hide and seek game with mostly security breach assets, made by Daybreak Games. And because of that, it looks pretty good. The Gregories are the hiders, and the animatronics are the seekers, even Freddy. Though, because of how graphically intensive this game is, it doesn't get many players. The game is unplayable without a strong device, as depicted by this Gregory right here. The developers are definitely aware though, they're always working to try and optimize as much as possible, even using the same deload you'd find in normal security breach. The Gregories can take 3 hits before you die. There's phaser blasters and Monty cameras that are randomly spawned in the lobby to assist you. Animatronics have limited battery and have to recharge some time until the last minute of sudden death where everyone's location is revealed. The only downside other than the lag you might experience is that this lobby is the only map. But if the game continues to get updates, then maybe they might add the daycare, for example, which sounds really cool to think about. There's also a free roam mode to explore the other parts that they finished. If you are pathing to how you would in the Security Breach story, it goes away to like half the Monty chase. Funny side note, there's one Freddy on the map that everyone has to share, and you can call him from anywhere. So there's like 10 Gregories needing their Freddy. I want to have it at A tier, but it still has potential to grow. Now this game contrasts the last one almost completely. Security Breach Remake, also made by Zoctar, the dev of FNAF Co-op, is another FNAF game remaking Security Breach into Roblox. This game is probably the most playable Security Breach you'll see on Roblox. About 40 to 60 minutes of content to play, and running well on most devices because there's less to load and render. Note that I am extremely biased for this game. My first video on this channel is literally a speedrun of it. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. It actually has a good chunk of the story included to play with up to 4 people, separated by chapters as well, so you can pick up to where you left off, if anything. It has a fair share of bugs and glitches due to a lack of polish that I'm hopefully showing here. If you played the original Security Breach unreleased, then you know you're getting the true Security Breach experience here. I won't sit here trying to convince you that it's a well-made game. It's just a fun one. For the aspects that might make the game weird or unplayable for most people is what makes it charming to me. The game hasn't been touched in over a year, both likely due to the creator's focus on FNAF co-op mentioned earlier, but also some development issues with the people he partnered with to work on the game with him. And if he were to continue this game, I wonder how much he could even get away with copying the game in its entirety. What I'm trying to say is, I get it, but I still enjoy the game for what it is currently. It's probably the best you'll get if you want to play some multiplayer Security Breach game on Roblox. Maybe if I keep coping, I get a part 5. S tier. Coincidentally enough, we now have FNAF Security Failure Ruin by Pochi, which is a game based on the Ruin DLC for Security Breach. It's the only one on Roblox to attempt it, probably. It has 2.5 chapters that are playable either solo or co-op. The first 2 chapters felt very rough to play. The flashlight emitting the entire Milky Way galaxy was a funny touch though. When a sound effect is meant to play, sometimes there's a barrier there to prevent you from moving forward or even entirely until it's done, kind of like a cutscene. For what it wants to be, the game does a decent enough job to be Security Breach Ruin, aside from the porting. Hard for me to enjoy since I already didn't like Ruin, especially with it being much slower, but it's fun the first time around. Emphasis on the slower, by the way. Like, hear these footsteps? I can't take it. It was also very confusing to me how the game worked. The equipable items aren't labeled or anything. But yeah, it was fun for my first time. Check out Monty over here. So, dude. Chapter 3 is the most recent addition that's just a beta and tries to rectify some of the things wrong with previous chapters, when the mask used to render your eyes completely useless. I think they're still working on the game, and I'm definitely interested in what they decide to do with it. I enjoyed it, but I would only go back for updates. Let's head into B tier. Up next, we have FNAF Support Requested, developed by Dev Kaiser. It's another game based on Help Wanted VR. I'll keep this brief, as this game was abandoned in development early, but still felt worth adding to the list. It still has a good chunk of minigames to play, and they work okay. Even if you didn't read the description, you could probably tell something was off, like FNAF 2 having no ambience, for example. Most interestingly, this was the only type of game like this to have a multiplayer, though it is just FNAF 1, which does indeed make it like the rest of the ones before. A simple FNAF experience, outdated by its predecessors, C tier. Moving on to a fan game, we have FNAF Time in the Past, owned by Corrosive Matter. FNAF Time in the Past is a relatively newer game. It's free roam multiplayer co-op, as we've seen before. A similar premise to other games where you try to complete your tasks for the night while surviving the animatronics, given 3 lives to do so. Me and my friends find the office, which prompts the night to start. Freddy's on the move. Typical FNAF stuff, except what happens when the power goes out. We're forced to leave the office to repair the generator, a pretty common gameplay loop, weirdly enough. We're told we need to clean graffiti off the walls, and they definitely did not make that easy. We could not find them for a while. Ended up making it to 6 a.m. only to realize the game will only end once you finish your tasks. Also, this Golden Freddy flashbang. After having our lives slowly whittled down, we beat the nights, and it was definitely fun. I mean, I tend to enjoy anything when I'm with my friends, but this is 100% enjoyable with randoms, as long as they stay in the game. In typical FNAF fashion, the nights ramp up in difficulty with more animatronics, though there isn't a 5th night. The game is in pre-alpha, apparently, which is great to acknowledge that there might be more in store for this game. Cool fan game, the graphics are neat, and its implied is still being worked on. I think I'll put it in A tier. Moving on, we have FNAF under Roblox standards, labeled Furs, made by Burger. Was a game made back in 2021, and it's a mix of office sitting and free roaming, though it's hard to tell which one it's trying to be. Luckily, Pietro is here to clue me in on secret security guard tips and tricks. I explore the halls, only to aimlessly ram 2 animatronics simultaneously. Something I haven't seen before is his back room, which I assume acts like a hidden area in which to hide in. However, I underestimated our opponent's reach, so I just need to adapt. I will hold out my mask before they even get a chance. Okay. I'd rather just look around the map. There's a Markiplier
Was that the bite of 87?
and a toilet with flush mechanics. Cool. Let's hop into FNAF 3, where I unfortunately get points while lobby starting at night 1, and as you might guess, there's nothing that happens here. Springchat must have heard me though, since he begins manifesting into my game as soon as night 2 begins. Let it be known that this game is harder than the original FNAF 3, as I don't even have to bother the Phantoms for them to ruin my systems. It's just kind of normal gameplay here, but it's a very bizarre game, all things considered. There's not really a way to lose, as it just tracks the amount of deaths in the server, which is either positive or negative, depending on what you're looking for in a FNAF game. But it's very buggy either way. Not a huge turnoff for me, though, as you can probably tell from the way I ranked the last ones, but I imagine the fun of playing this game for the first time wears off pretty quickly. It's just silly enough to save it from D tier. Next, we have Forgotten Memories, made by Cubics Games, I believe is owned by these two. I first heard about this game because it happened to be one of those things on Roblox where people are like, whoa, how's this game on Roblox? It looks so cool. You know the ones. And yeah, they weren't really kidding. It felt like a fan game you'd see outside of Roblox. The game starts with an exposition displaying the cast's personality with some voice acting. This is a free roam game that also does require a balance between heading into the office and maintaining your systems across the pizzeria, avoiding the animatronics as usual. Works great in multiplayer too when you can coordinate who manages the office and who has to venture out to fix the power and parts and service, or resetting the ventilation in arcade. The resources in this game do feel more dire as well. Your flashlight batteries drain quick and require you to pick extras on your way scavenging. Unlike other games, Freddy here is either an Olympic sprinter or everyone here is slow as rocks.
Why do you like that?
You must make use of the vents and cabinets to hide and make traversing a lot easier. The game has also put effort into its ambience with all the weird sounds you hear and cheeky scares. Although some of the effects do feel goofy, it feels like I'm playing Doors here.
What the fuck?
As you might expect, more animatronics become active each progressing night, needing you to change your pathing more so. My friend died in the office, and we learned that time freezes if you leave something unfixed for too long, meaning that the night won't progress. I really like this game. One of those games where I can see FNAF fans outside of Roblox enjoying. I probably said that a lot. And I'm glad I'm actually able to run it now, because it can be very laggy for old devices. I'll round it up to S tier. Now to talk about this game, Night Shift at Chuck E. Cheese 2 Early Access, made by the Demolisher. This game was a wild ride for sure. I didn't even know what to expect from it other than like it could be FNAF related. In retrospect, it probably doesn't even belong on this list, but it's close enough. We enter a Chuck E. Cheese. I started my first attempt with Zayden over here, hoping he would show me the ropes, but this bum had no idea what he was doing and either died. Really made me wish I listened to the guy on the phone. Zayden's plan was just to hide in the office forever, so I guess I made the bold choice to venture off into the unknown just to meet with like 3 of them, so. Also, real quick, what am I supposed to be? I'm like a Gary's model or something? I wish I knew. There's infinite lives, but I'm taking my chances with the next guy, Renzo. Phone guy is apparently telling us to find a key or clues. It takes us forever as we keep searching and dying. Keep in mind, this cutscene plays every single time, though I'm a fan of how it almost implies that there's an infinite number of us, and every time we die, to just bring a new one to check it out. We find the stupid clue, we find the stupid key, and now we can progress. Each room just had another key for the next, giving me negative time to even process whatever I'm seeing. Like, no, genuinely what is happening here. And perhaps my favorite part in the game, in the manager's office, I'll just let it speak for itself.
Get to it and get out of here! Leave me! It broke my legs!
What? Uh, Cinema. He runs like he's skidding on ice, a genius addition insinuating that he's so reckless and insane. My goat, Renzo, finally opens the emergency exit door. This game is probably the most unexpected for me. I didn't think I'd enjoy it to any extent, but it's just goofy enough to win my heart over, even if it's not really a FNAF game. Night Shift at Chuck E. Cheese 2 Early Access B tier. Next, we have another game to add to the free roam multiplayer category, not that I'm complaining. It's Spring Locked FNAF Survival, made by Relish. The game is a mix of maintaining things around the map while dodging the animatronics and using the office, the usual. The main game seems to be FNAF 2, but there's also other modes like a Legacy, the Joy of Creation mode, and a Work in Progress FNAF 3. You can load in with up to 5 players. I'm going to learn as we go. I just had to hope that the level 8 I'm with knows what he's doing. The gameplay loop is slightly different here, even for a night one. You block the doors from the animatronics, but there's also mini games randomly to do here and there. My teammate was in fact not reliable, so I had to see these ginormous animatronics get in our office. I have no idea why they're this big. Unfortunately for them, I'm the goat, so we win anyways. Went again to try night 4 this time. I wanted a challenge since that night was so easy. The random here may be level 1, but PCL isn't afraid of anything. Was going smoothly until my first real obstacle. There'd be pipes on the map that needed fixing. Not only can you barely see anything without the in-game items, but it's very likely that you'll be spotted by literally anything walking by. At the time of playing, I didn't even notice, but the pipe had time to break down again before I even made it back to the office. Needless to say, I didn't win that. Their Joy of Creation mode seemed fun too. Similar premise as the original game with like the fetch quest stuff. Freddy and Foxy hunt you down, Bonnie tries to break down this wall, and Chica just attacks a random player, which just happened to be me. There's only one life though, and it is very easy to get cornered. These walls are narrow. They come at you fast, for example.
My head gone, bruh. My head.
Definitely a solid game that took me a bit to get my head around. The extra items you can loot are also relatively easy to get, I believe, and the game is still being worked on as well. Likely the FNAF 3 section. B tier for me. So now we have Ultimate Random Night made by Grimblow. URN is another game based on Ultimate Custom Night that I mentioned earlier. Though this one's more honest to how the original game played, based on just like the characters available. They're still just as good. These kind of games can get pretty addicting, whether you're a night guard hoping you're knowledgeable enough to win your first night finally, or an animatronic trying to be the first to kill the night guard, especially when it's a good player who's been playing perfectly up until then. The animatronic you can be is randomly selected for you rather than being able to pick one yourself, which has its pros and cons, I'd imagine. Most would probably love to pick their favorites, but this adds more variety to the night and won't have someone spamming the same one over and over. This game also has Dee Dee to add a new challenger, which I completely forgotten about her as a character entirely until this point. Every few nights or so, there's a random chance for a challenge night to activate, which forces the night guard into a preset mode of specific animatronics to earn badges for it, which I thought was so cool. A lot for me to get out of this game, to grind until I win a night, and learning the slightly tweaked animatronic pool. I'll put it in the same tier as mashup multiplayer, right up in A. So the video originally ended there, but at the time of making this video, I found some extra games to add to the list. The video is already getting kind of long, so let's speedrun through these. Five Nights at Marcus 2 by Zycify. It's a game I randomly found, but I decided to try it and was pleasantly surprised to be playing an actually well-made original fan game. The office gameplay reminds me of Pizzeria Simulator, where you complete each night by finishing your tasks. There's vents you can be attacked from, but also one huge window where almost every animatronic will try to attack you from. You're equipped with a flashlight and shot controls depend off the newer animatronics. The mechanics are easy to pick up, but just enough to create tension while maintaining balanced gameplay. At some point, I just stopped questioning who the hell Marcus was and decided to give him an A tier. We'll be revisiting the classics here. The next two games are made by the same user, Cole. This one is Five Nights at Freddy's remake. The gameplay you'll see is my friend who was terrified the entire time, to the point of playing on zero graphics quality. The game is a standard remake with minor quirks and changes to the office and sound design, which for the most part go appreciated. For example, the doors have a hole in them, and there's the sound for the camera flip.
It's so satisfying. Like that sound.
Only anything about it is having to break your neck to see each side of the doors, but it's nothing major. This one gets a B tier. And for this game, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 2 reimagined, so it's not necessarily a remake. In other words, it plays much differently. I've never seen this much work put into a FNAF 2 game on Roblox, that's for sure. There's a lot of things to appreciate even from the starting menu, but my favorite thing about this game is the addition of death scenes. They gave every animatronic a special cutscene when they jump scare you. It reminds me somewhat of those older YouTube videos I used to watch of exactly this. Shout out to Zapper770. It's a really cool fan game that gives you off the impression that the developer could also do wonders outside of the Roblox hemisphere. A strong A tier. Moving to this game, we have Freddy's Unlocked, made by Mars Friday. This game seems to be a fan creation based around FNAF 1. There's new designs for the main cast that did feel quite goofy, but I've come to like them, especially Bonnie. And they made Foxy a drummer, which is awesome. The gameplay isn't so much different though. For some reason, I ended up actually being very nervous in my playthrough. Like, I didn't know what to expect. The phone guy was trying to explain to me, but I also couldn't hear it in my all over the ambience. And the controls for lifting and closing the doors felt quite finicky. I couldn't grasp it myself. I was also interested in their multiplayer mode. Unfortunately, there aren't many people to get a server going. Trying to balance in my head the ups and downs of this game, so I'll set up with B tier. Next, we have the Barnstars by Neurotics. The lobby and name should probably give me an idea of what's going on here, though this game does seem to attract the weirdest creatures of the Roblox platform. A little break from office sitting as we're back into free roaming again. And you bet that there's a malfunction across the map that we need to deal with or else we die. Definitely a game you'd want to keep your friends with you. One thing about this game, in contrast to the others, was how scared I was with like the one animatronic we started with. Like, he comes out of nowhere and I jumped every single time. My friends were all dead too, so I kept to myself in the office with everything closed. Great fan game, I have to say though. I had my friends deal with getting slammed every time they left the office, so I'm having fun. A tier. Last game, I hope or believe, 5 Shifts at Zoinks by Zoink. It's a wacky name, but definitely not a wacky game. Similar premise, I believe, to the Marcus game, where the developer made a game where his friends are the animatronics. The cameras in office depict a very gray and metallic-looking location. It's very interesting. As stated by the developer, this game is meant to be a challenge, and it was made immediately apparent by just how quick the first guy moves to your office, even on night 1. There's a generator behind you to maintain as well, where some Grimblow is lurking. The best thing about this, though, was that this is the only game I've played on this list to have, like, the Scott Cawthon Atari-style minigames in between tonight, as far as I'm aware. Like, I was just shocked that Out of every game I played, to have one, it's 5 ships at Zoinks. Not to discredit the game or anything, this is a perfectly fine fan game. I'd say B tier. Alright, boom. My complete Roblox FNAF games tier list based on just how much fun I had. I sincerely hope that it's as inexpensive as possible. I enjoyed every game on here, just some more than others. Being mindful that while making this video, a few of the games that may have changed from how I've shown them in here, like Five Nights at Your Friends received its FNAF 2 update, and Data Breach isn't available to play anymore, etc., stuff like that. I can guarantee that I've missed some games, so please feel free to leave a comment or DM me on Discord, because I love trying out these games. Would love feedback on or tips on like formatting and editing too, because I specifically downloaded editing software just to make this video. I'm fairly new to this. If you somehow stuck around to the end of this extremely niche video, then know you are extremely appreciated, and I'm glad you hopefully liked it. If you watched the whole video just to hate on it, that's kind of impressive. Every game on here was fun to play, so it's possible I'll do something like this again. Link to the tiers will be in the description if you want to make your own. I'll like maybe add some games that I might have missed to that list as well. And yeah, thanks for watching.